4 disturbing SCP stories about sleep and dreams. SCP-2365. The universe is trying to tell you that it hates you. Item: SCP-2365. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Reports of SCP-2365 are to be investigated and data analyzed for evidence of connections or common factors between victims. Survivors of SCP-2365 and witnesses are to be interviewed, tested, and amnesticized. Foundation front companies are to conduct sleep studies in an attempt to observe and document SCP-2365. While it is not known whether SCP-2365 is memetic in nature, access to information relating to SCP-2365 is to be restricted. Description: SCP-2365 is a phenomenon affecting certain individuals during REM sleep. Initial stages of SCP-2365 are characterized by the materialization of small flakes of rust in the air above the sleeper and a reduction in local temperature. Recordings during this stage have detected the noise of metal hinges, the source of which has not been determined. If the sleeper is woken during this stage, no further effects are observed. If SCP-2365 is permitted to progress, the initial phenomenon will cease and the second stage will commence. Heavy steel springs will materialize in the space adjacent to the sleeper's head. Over the course of 10 to 15 minutes, this will be followed by the slow manifestation of additional metal attachments, forming a large bear trap. The bear trap will remain suspended over the sleeper's head for up to 10 minutes before slowly dematerializing. If the sleeper returns to consciousness during this period, or contact is made with the trap by the sleeper or others, the springs will be triggered, typically leading to significant trauma to the head and neck. The Foundation's understanding of SCP-2365 is based largely on forensics and witness reports. Observation and testing has been restricted to bear traps which have been triggered in retained material substance and to a limited number of SCP-2365 survivors. No pattern has been determined between the identities of victims of SCP-2365, and the number of unobserved cases is difficult to determine. SCP-966 Sleep Killer. Item: SCP-966. Object Class: Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. MTF-IOTA-1 Dream Hunters and MTF-IOTA-2 Air Chasers are to regularly be on the lookout for news about sudden, violent human deaths related to sleep deprivation in order to find and neutralize remaining wild instances of SCP-966. The 4 specimens of SCP-966, 3 males, designated SCP-966-1, SCP-966-3, and SCP-966-4, and 1 female, designated SCP-966-2, acquired by the Foundation, must be contained in a 10 by 10 meter room made of steel lined with lead, located on site. 2 security cameras with infrared filters and infrared sensitive film are to be installed inside the room. Each specimen of SCP-966 is to be fed with 20 kilograms of meat every month. In the event of SCP-966-2 giving birth, the newborn specimen is to be studied and disposed of before it reaches maturity. Description: SCP-966 are predatory creatures that resemble hairless, digitigrade humans, possessing an elongated face with a mouth lined with needle-like teeth. On each hand, they have 5 claws that can be up to 20 centimeters long. Although sharp, these are easily broken, making them unfit for combat. SCP-966's height ranges from 1.4 to 1.6 meters, and it can reach up to 30 kilograms in weight. Physically, SCP-966 are weak, possessing hollow bones and low muscular density. They do not seem to rest through sleep. Instead, they will suddenly cease all movement at seemingly random intervals of time, resuming normal activity 3 to 5 minutes later. SCP-966 are visible only at wavelengths ranging from 700 nm to about 900 nm. This applies to all of SCP-966's tissues. If their skin, muscles, or organs have suffered from 2nd to 3rd degree burns, the affected areas will be visible at wavelengths ranging from 360 to 900 nm. SCP-966 feed on medium to large-sized animals, including humans. They hunt either alone or in pairs. Their hunting methods consist of emitting a single burst of a previously unknown type of wave, dubbed waves, in honor of the late Dr. which permanently inhibits the ability of the affected creature to enter any of the NREM and REM sleep stages. The ability to microsleep is also lost. The effective range of the waves is up to 20 meters. However, tests show that they can be blocked by post-transition metals, particularly lead. All attempts to make victims of SCP-966 sleep have failed. It is still possible to induce other forms of unconsciousness, although these will usually prove detrimental to the affected subject, as they do not provide true rest. After depriving their victims of sleep, SCP-966 will stalk their prey until the lack of rest incapacitates it. At this point, SCP-966 will proceed to consume it. SCP-966 have proven to be very agile and silent while stalking their victims. On occasion, they will deliberately make threatening noises around the prey in order to further stress it, and may even physically assault it if the victim proves to be particularly durable. Other than the common symptoms caused by sleep deprivation, some victims of SCP-966 have shown signs of suffering from extremely vivid hallucinations, as well as sudden bouts of rage with no apparent external stimuli. It is currently thought that these are the true effects of prolonged exposure to waves. Why SCP-966 continually exposes these waves to only some of their victims is unknown. One hypothesis is that SCP-966 will only do this when starving, since it further degenerates the physical and mental state of their prey, incapacitating it at a faster rate. Wild instances of SCP-966 are found all over the world. Since their discovery in the Foundation has succeeded in greatly thinning their numbers, although they are still found in large quantities in many countries. SCP-2876 Dream a Little Dream. Item SCP-2876 Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. All known instances of SCP-2876 have been suppressed by Mobile Task Force MU4 debuggers. Mobile devices connected to global and private internet servers are to be regularly scanned and purged of any detected instances of SCP-2876. Medical reports of somnambulism and unusual physical degeneration are to be analysed for signs of SCP-2876 activity. Subjects who have been affected by SCP-2876 are to be issued Class C amnestics. One device containing SCP-2876 is to be held in a deactivated state within Site-77. It is to be regularly activated every 30 days in a controlled environment in order to check for updates and changes to SCP-2876's functionality. SCP-2876's apparent origin point of Portland, Oregon is to be monitored by Foundation agents stationed at Site-64 for future activity. Description: SCP-2876 is a smartphone application titled Headspace, appearing in web application marketplaces connected to the general public internet. It describes itself as a service making dreams from the floor to your door and allows users to purchase customized dreams and micro-dreams. The application interface for SCP-2876 consists of a text box, allowing the user to request a custom dream. It can also select the length of time for the dream, ranging from microseconds to 72 hours. Once the purchase is complete, a message will then appear, reading, "Deduction, reduction, complete." The subject will then immediately lapse into REM sleep. Analytical metadata recovered during containment shows that most of SCP-2876's users average between 30 minutes to an hour of usage at a time, with a small percentage of users utilizing it for the maximum amount of time. Users will describe any dreams they experience as being lucid and relatively accurate to their requests. In addition, subjects report being able to purchase additional dream time while asleep through in-dream menus that appear on command. During this time, they are unusually resistant to being awakened, and their heart ceases to beat, although other bodily functions continue as normal. SCP-2876 affected subjects utilizing it for longer than 1 hour will enter a somnambulatory state. Any mechanisms that an affected subject interacts with while in this state will function even if they are not powered. Examples of this activity include microwave ovens cooking food despite not being powered, motor vehicles operating without the engine, even running if the battery, engine, ignition, and steering column were removed. Local area networks will show inactive network-enabled devices accessing hundreds of websites at a time. Testing has shown there is no upward limit on how long subjects are able to utilize battery-powered devices in this manner. Subjects are able to navigate any darkened areas as though it were lit if inactive lighting fixtures are present. As users of SCP-2876 are frequently engaged in intense physical activities, they do not receive most of the restorative effects of sleep and will frequently reactivate the application in hope of getting rest. In addition to those regularly observed behaviors, there are several distinct groupings of SCP-2876 which appear in subjects regularly using long-term SCP-2876. These have been divided by research into 4 general categories: behavioral groups, observed in sleepwalking SCP-2876 subjects. Pattern 1. Observers. Pattern 1 subjects appear to primarily observe their environment, seeking out mundane objects such as waste bins and street signs. They will attempt to document them through any means available to them. Any markings made on the subject's body will be removed once they cease to be under SCP-2876's effect. Pattern 2. Preceptors. Exposing themselves to extreme temperatures, weather, depths, and heights. Pattern 2 subjects focus on sensory excitement. In the short term, subjects may stand in front of opened ice boxes or attempt to touch hot irons. If given time and the opportunity, they will deliberately expose themselves to extreme and dangerous weather patterns such as blizzards or heat waves. They may also spend copious amounts of time running showers with hot and cold water. Pattern 3 subjects behave in a thrill-seeking manner, frequently placing themselves in deliberately dangerous situations. However, this type of behavior goes against SCP-2876's documented Terms of Service Agreement, usually resulting in early termination of the sleep cycle. Occasionally, subsequent resting may involve nightmares about grinding in some form. Pattern 4. Consumers. Pattern 4 subjects will attempt to eat massive quantities of food in great diversity, usually eating all foodstuffs in the subject's possession, and in longer dream transitions, attempting to purchase large quantities of food from local sellers. In addition, these subjects frequently attempt to place anything they can see in their mouths. Subjects are reimbursed for any expenses and purchases during their time utilizing SCP-2876. If a subject is killed or otherwise seriously injured during their time using SCP-2876, it will delete itself from any devices in the subject's possession. Surviving subjects show no memory of SCP-2876 and will rationalize their behavior if confronted, usually attributing it to drugs and alcohol. All other subjects who have used SCP-2876 will wake up in possession of a business card reading, "Thanks for being a great host. We'll be back real soon." Addendum 0102-2016. SCP-2876 received the first update documented during containment. Included with this document, it changed some aspects of the user interface while also implying other functionalities of the application. Headspace version and Groundspace version 8.6.7.5.3.0.9. Improved review system with sections for body feel, ectoplasmic congruence, and accessibility. Automatic host tracking and alerts for body availability. Better filtering of intent from dream entities, inquiring on availability. General fixes, and differing about. Any references to a parallel application for incorporeal entities indicated through patch notes included with the revision were taken out in subsequent updates. Further investigation by Foundation agents is ongoing. SCP-3060 Sleep Paralysis. Item SCP-3060 Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. Individual instances of SCP-3060 are to be kept in high-security lockers within the storage wing of Site-64. All testing involving SCP-3060 requires the approval of both the Site Ethics Committee and Site Command. No more than 4 individuals may be infected by SCP-3060 for testing purposes at any given time. Individuals infected by SCP-3060 are to be kept in Type 1 standard humanoid containment chambers within the Humanoid Anomaly Containment Wing of Site-64. Cells have been equipped with alarm systems to prevent instances from entering REM sleep outside of designated sleeping hours, approximately 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. local time. During designated sleeping hours, all personnel are to evacuate the radius of each infected individual's anomalous effect. Following termination of any individual affected by SCP-3060, containment personnel are to initiate a site-wide lockdown and begin the Hypnose Protocol to prevent the spread of infection. Description: Instances of SCP-3060 are small medical devices that superficially resemble continuous positive airway pressure (CPAP) machines. The individual materials that compose SCP-3060 instances are non-anomalous and operate identically to a typical CPAP machine of its size and make. The Foundation currently has 5 instances of SCP-3060 in its custody. SCP-3060's anomalous effects become apparent when worn by a sleeping human. When an individual wearing an instance of SCP-3060 enters their second REM cycle, a humanoid, incorporeal entity, hereafter referred to as SCP-3060-A, will appear within a 5-meter radius of the individual and stand over them until they wake up. At this point, SCP-3060-A will disappear, and the individual wearing SCP-3060 will become infected. From that point on, regardless as to whether the individual wears SCP-3060, the SCP-3060-A entity will appear when they enter their second REM cycle each night and remain until awakening. While instances of SCP-3060-A appear as featureless silhouettes upon first manifestation, they quickly take on a unique shape based on each infected individual. As such, SCP-3060-A entities have no standard appearance. While a full list of observed SCP-3060-A instances can be found in Document 3060-B, notable observed instances include a figure roughly the size of a human infant composed entirely of fused teeth, a humanoid superficially resembling an elderly woman dressed in dark clothes, lacking a mouth or eyes. The instance's arms are both severely injured, with compound fractures visible. A partially disintegrated humanoid composed of ash, dressed in red lingerie. A naked humanoid covered in tire tracks and showing signs of severe crush injuries. A humanoid whose torso consisted of a large mouth. And a clown. While an SCP-3060-A entity stands within the presence of an infected individual, any additional human subject that enters a 50-meter radius of the infected will enter a catatonic state. At this point, an additional instance of SCP-3060-A will appear within the proximity of the infected individual. The additional SCP-3060-A entity will then approach the catatonic subject, phasing through solid matter if the subject is in a separate room. Upon arriving at the subject, the new SCP-3060-A instance will phase its hand through the subject's skull and then vanish, causing the subject to immediately fall asleep. All subjects touched by the SCP-3060-A entity in this manner will become new instances of SCP-3060 infected upon awakening. Testing has shown that awakening the infected, whether through physical or auditory stimuli, following the appearance of an SCP-3060-A entity, will cause the latter to immediately vanish and catatonic subjects to regain movement. Additionally, SCP-3060-A entities will not approach non-catatonic subjects outside the range of an infected individual's anomalous properties. Non-human subjects are immune to all SCP-3060's effects. All attempts to communicate with SCP-3060-A instances have thus far been met with failure. SCP-3060 infection has long-term effects on the health of infected persons. After at least 3 days, infected individuals often begin to display fatigue, mood changes, impaired performance, and memory problems, even after obtaining a full night's sleep. Infected individuals often report frequent nightmares, though no central themes or correlations have been observed in the content of said dreams. Within a month, infected individuals will often develop visual and auditory hallucinations, as well as delusions that their mind is no longer their own, but rather has been stolen by someone or something. Soon after, infected individuals descend into full psychosis as they become unable to distinguish the content of their dreams from reality. In extreme cases, after at least 2 months of infection, hair loss, canati subita, partial or complete blindness, somatic complaints, cataplexy, and alien limb syndrome have been observed. Attempts by medical staff to alleviate these conditions in the long term have thus far been met with failure. Though symptoms are delayed in individuals with previous diagnosis of insomnia, sleep deprivation has likewise proven effective in delaying the onset of the symptoms of SCP-3060 infection. Research into a cure is currently ongoing. If no human subjects enter the area of SCP-3060 infected individuals' effect during REM sleep for 7 consecutive days, or the infected individual dies, an instance of SCP-3060-A will appear. The SCP-3060-A entity will then proceed to search for the nearest sleeping human. Upon locating of this individual, SCP-3060-A will stand over them until they enter their next REM sleep cycle, at which point the SCP-3060-A entity will reach into their skull and vanish. At this point, the sleeping individual will become infected. Should the sleeping individual awaken during this process, or SCP-3060-A be unable to locate a suitable subject, within 3 hours it will vanish without spreading the SCP-3060 infection. Addendum 3060-A Recovery. Foundation agents first became aware of SCP-3060 on March 21, 2015, when the entire census of the Portland Sleep Medicine Clinic became infected following a volunteer sleep study using SCP-3060 to prevent hypnagogic sleep paralysis. All infected individuals thereafter were brought into Foundation custody, and all records related to the study seized by Foundation operatives. None of the records seized indicated an origin of the SCP-3060 instances, and all staff associated with the project died in their sleep shortly upon being brought into Foundation custody. Autopsies revealed large quantities of SCP-3966-A within the staff members' cerebrospinal fluid. An investigation into Dr. Cynthia Zhao, the primary investigator of the Portland sleep medicine study associated with SCP-3060, and covered her to be a frequent user of SCP-2876. Addendum 3060-B Video log transcript of Test 3060-03. Forward. The following events took place on April 2nd, 2015, as part of the initial containment experiments for SCP-3060. An SCP-3060 infected individual was placed in a standard humanoid containment cell with instructions to go to sleep after being fitted with sensors to monitor brainwave patterns and vital signs. Subjects: D1260, D2860, D2106, and D2306 were placed in nearby cells with the same holding block as the infected individual. All cells were equipped with CCTV cameras feeding to the same monitor bank. At approximately 11:40 p.m., the infected individual entered her second REM cycle. 23:45-21. D1260 is playing solitaire at the table in his cell. D2860 is reading on her cot. D2106 is pacing within her cell. D2306 has fallen asleep, sitting in the cell's chair. 23:45-58. SCP-3060-A-1 appears standing over the infected individual and resembles a headless humanoid with arms and legs replaced by spinal columns. Shortly after, an additional 4 instances of SCP-3060-A appear. Each additional instance resembles a featureless, humanoid silhouette. The instances remain standing over the infected for the next 5 minutes. All D-Class personnel appear to have become catatonic. Those D-Class awake have expressions of distress upon their face. 23:51:00. SCP-3060-A-2 turns and leaves the infected cell, phasing through the door and entering the hallway, where it then phases into D2306's cell. SCP-3060-A-2 stands over D2306 for several seconds, then bends over and places its face near D2306's ear before reaching into his skull. 23:53:30. SCP-3060-A3 phases through the floor and vanishes for several moments before phasing up through the floor of D2860's cell, through her cot, then through her. SCP-3060-A3 remains motionless for several moments as it looks down at D2860, who appears to be struggling against her catatonic state. SCP-3060-A3 then slowly reaches out and closes D2860's eyes with its hand, then reaches into her skull. 23:55:45. SCP-3060-A2 removes its hand from 2306's skull and takes the shape of a male human with mathematical symbols in place of facial features. SCP-3060-A2 vanishes. 23:56:15. SCP-3060-A4 climbs up the cell wall and phases through the ceiling and vanishes for several moments before phasing into D2106's cell through the ventilation grate. The instance drops down and walks around D2106 as she struggles against her catatonic state. D2106 falls over. SCP-3060-A4 wraps its arms around D2106 and begins to caress her head. After several moments of this, SCP-3060-A4 reaches into D-2106's skull. 2357-46. SCP-3060-A3 removes its hand from D-2860's skull and takes the shape of a humanoid composed of a tightly wound thread. A variety of spiders are visible, crawling in and out of openings along SCP-3060-A3's body. SCP-3060-A3 vanishes. 2358-42. SCP-3060-A5 leaves the infected cell, phasing through the walls from cell to cell before finally arriving at D-1260's cell. SCP-3060-A5 stands across the table from D-1260, staring at him for several moments while caressing his hand. D-1260 struggles against the catatonic state. SCP-3060-A5 reaches into D-1260's skull. 000047. SCP-3060-A4 removes its hand from D-2106's skull and takes the shape of a featureless white humanoid dressed in a Foundation lab coat. SCP-3060-A4 vanishes. 000230. SCP-3060-A5 removes its hand from D-1260's skull and takes the shape of a featureless black humanoid dressed in an amalgamation of paraphernalia from various authoritarian regimes. SCP-3060-A5 vanishes. 000538. SCP-3060-A1 remains standing over the infected until she awakens at approximately 0450:00. Addendum 3060-C Interview Log 3060-6. The following interview was conducted as part of routine mental health monitoring for SCP-3060 infected individuals on the 3rd of March 2016. Interviewed: Researcher John Corbin. Interviewer: Researcher Roland Farrow. Forward. The interview took place approximately 1.5 months following Researcher Corbin's infection by SCP-3060 during the 15th of January 2016 containment breach of an instance of SCP-3060-A. Researcher Corbin had begun to report visual and auditory hallucinations 1 week earlier. Due to his knowledge on SCP-3060's effects and prior diagnosis of insomnia, Researcher Corbin has shown remarkable resistance to SCP-3060's hallucinogenic effects. Begin log. Evening, John.
Evening, Roland. Sorry if I'm not exactly 100% today. To be frank, I'm exhausted. And it's hard to concentrate when the walls are bleeding. Don't sit there!
May I ask why?
Trust me, Roland, I'll be much more composed if I don't have to watch you sit in that chair.
The hallucinations have progressed to that severity already.
They have. It's like my eyes are constantly getting these little pop-ups of nonsense, and there's this fucking voice that keeps commenting on things. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Shut up.
The auditory hallucinations are constant at this point, then?
Just the one. I personally like to think it's the voice of the 3060-A that's creeping up on me, but I have no way to prove that. And it's not like it's going to tell the truth. I'm so fucking tired right now, Roland. Sleeping's become a chore. A nightmare-filled chore that leaves me feeling more exhausted than when I went to bed. And when I wake up, it's like I'm taking the nightmares with me. Like that barrier between my conscious and subconscious became a sieve or something.
These auditory hallucinations, what do they...
Your face just melted off, Roland. We should probably hurry this up. I don't know how much more I can take.
Right. These auditory hallucinations, what kind of things do they say?
Comment on thoughts I have, on things I see. Sometimes ask me about myself. I have to say, when the other infected said they felt like their mind wasn't their own, I didn't really know what they were saying. But I sure as hell do now.
Do you believe that the voice is trying to control you, command you, influence you in any way?
Fuck if I know, Roland. If it is, it's doing a pretty shitty job at it. Honestly, I'd say it's just here for the headspace and to enjoy the ride, but again, what the hell do I know? Can we be done, please?
I'm afraid we have just a few more things to get through before we're done. Bear with me.
All right.
How you are describing this auditory hallucination, you make it sound like a separate intelligence. I'm writing down a few questions that I'm going to want you to ask it.
The words marched like ants off the page, Roland. I can't read this.
I'll dictate them then. I got a hunch, but I'm going to need some confirmation before I can move forward in that direction. 1. What do you call yourself? 2. Are you a separate entity from John Corbin? 3. Do you exist within his mindscape, or are you based in some other... Ugh, John.
Jesus. Fire? Roland. Fire?
Oh, Christ. Christ, John, what the hell was that?
You got to the second question, then burst into flames, Roland. I couldn't watch you die like that. I can't answer these questions. I can't fucking do this.
Very well. I'll leave the list with you. See if you can ask them when you have a less visually clustered moment. Addendum 3060D. Update 22nd of the 10th, 2016. A curvier pharmaceutical advertisement for SCP-3060 appeared in over 100 publications in the United States, Canada, and Europe. By the time mass censorship protocols could be enacted, and the source of the ad was traced to Curvier Logistics Warehouse in Seattle, Washington, approximately 3,000 instances of SCP-3060 had been shipped, with MTF Alpha 4 Pony Express operatives able to stop 2,700 in transit. An additional 270 instances of SCP-3060 were later captured at their destinations. Currently 30 instances of SCP-3060 remain uncontained. Warehouse staff were oblivious to the effect of the devices when interviewed, having all been hired within the last 2 weeks. Over half of these individuals were users of SCP-2876 prior to their hire gate. As before, all warehouse staff brought into Foundation custody died in their sleep shortly afterward. As before, large quantities of SCP-3966-A were found within the warehouse staff's CSF during autopsy. An investigation into both Curvier Pharmaceutical and Curvier Logistics is ongoing. As of the 25th of October 2016, an unknown number of SCP-3060 infected individuals are currently believed to be uncontained, with outbreaks occasionally occurring in several major metropolitan areas. Attempts to contain SCP-3060 infected individuals are ongoing. Due to SCP-3060 infection remaining largely undetectable within the general public until end-stage symptoms manifest, several mobile task forces are on standby to investigate reports of multiple psychotic breaks and acts of violence occurring within a short time frame within the same geographic area. SCP-3060's object class has subsequently been updated to Keter. Pandemic levels of SCP-3060 infection are currently being considered a potential AK class end-of-world scenario.